Hello. So after the last video going over the players in the play-ins and their stats, now we're going over the champions and having some meta talk. Um, yeah, seeing how much the champion was played, how well he did, and then how much it was banned, showing the priority on some picks, and then deducing which champions are quite good at the moment. So starting in the top lane with most played champions, we have Camille with 13 games, following that Renekton and On. After that, Wukong, Shen, Volibear, Sion. Um, seeing a huge priority on the first three champions and then decaying afterwards. Highest win rate, excluding one pick, one win champions for all positions, obviously. We can't say anything about that. Maybe it was just the player, maybe it was the team, maybe it was luck. I don't know. We can talk about some one-time picked, like I don't know, Quinn top lane and did one. We can't then say that Quinn is an OP champion because she has a 100% win rate. So one pick, one win champions, and two pick champions. I have left them out for the all stats. Just if you have 3 games on the champion, then this champion will appear in this list. It's a bit harsh, I know, but we want to get some semi-reliable data, right? So highest win rate on 90.9% win rate, and remember he was the second most played champion. This is surely completely broken, and yeah. Following that, Shen with 66.7%, Camille 53.8%, Wukong with just 50%, so just neutral, and then the Crocodile with a 45.5% win rate. Yeah, Renekton also second most played champion, but in comparison to Ornn, he is not even half as good as him. Yes, how unexpected, right? Yeah, Renekton obviously not doing all that well. He has to play with his jungler and get early leads, and if his jungler doesn't play around him, he can't really snowball all that hard, so he will be relevant in like 10 minutes in the game. Also, his kit is scaling negatively in the late game, and we had many late game team fights, if you remember. Also, overall the champion is not doing all that well in the other champions that are picked. Yes. Moving into the jungle, we see Graves and Lilia taking the first 2 swords with quite an advantage. Following that, Nidalee. Then we have Kindred and Hecarim, and then Lee Sin lastly. So we see a huge emphasis on the first 3 champions, and then we had some other picks here and there that weren't that prioritized and more of the counter pick and like A or B tier champion tier. This is not really reflected in the win rates. Kindred 83.3%, Graves 70.6%, Evelyn 66.7%, Nidalee 63.6%, and Hecarim with a 50% win rate. So let's go over some of these champions. So Graves, Nidalee, and Hecarim, if they're in the most played ratio, right, as expected. So seeing them here, understandable. Their numbers are also quite okay. Graves obviously with a 70% win rate as the most played champion. Yeah, balanced champion at the moment it seems. All the players are just really good at him. For Kindred, she was played 6 times, and I'm not sure of the exact number, but I think Peanut played her like 4 or 5 times in the 6-0 best offs from LGD. So this number is mainly because of Peanut. So we have to like remember that Kindred is not like completely overpowered per se, but Peanut is doing really well on her. So maybe the champion is just really good. Maybe it's just Peanut. But I wanted to mention that because of the relatively small game number, right? 6 is not that much in the end, especially if one player has played more than half of these games. Moving into the mid lane, we see quite a champion diversion. Oriana, Syndra, Galio, Set, TF and Zoe, with 10, 9, 8 and 7 games played. So if you think about it, we had some like 78 games, I think. And yeah, we have nothing too major in first or second place. Shows many picks were taken into the mid lane, and the mid lane meta pool was quite diverse. Really interesting though is Lucian got 5 games and Akali only 1. Coming into planes, looking at the solo queue statistics of most of the pro players, um, Lucian and Akali were by far the most played champions and high prioritized champions. I only assume we won't see this in main event group stage, because also the player skills or the individual mechanical skills of the mid laners is much higher there. So these more difficult champions like Zoe, Akali, and Lucian will probably be picked more, because if you can pilot them to a higher percentage, you can be more effective and more potent in some early game stages. Oriana, Syndra, Galio, Set, even the TF, they're not that mechanically inducive, meaning some worse players can pick them up, right? Not saying these players are bad, obviously not, but someone like Knight is obviously better than anyone who played in Play-ins, and he's able to completely dumpster people on Akali, for example, if the matchup is set out to. Looking into the win rates, again, remember the champion needs to have played 3 games at least. And yeah, Kassadin played 3 games and he won all of them. So Kassadin hidden OP. Not really, I think. Kassadin can be really good, but he is really situational. The enemy team has to fall into a certain type to allow him to excel and to be picked. Also, Kassadin was like winning some lanes even in some games, which is something which only happens if the player skill is too diverse. So yeah, but then Oriana with 90% win rate as the most played champion. Yeah, Oriana in the skirmish teamfight meta, obviously she's quite good in it. With her ult on a relatively low cooldown in the jungle corridors, really excels. I don't have to talk why Oriana is good in teamfights, right? Interesting is the third pick, Lucian with 60% win rate. He wasn't played that much, but he still won many games, respectively. So yeah, bit strange that we didn't saw more of him. Especially like with more AP junglers, like Lilia in Italy. An AD mid laner is not that bad actually. Maybe they want some CC, right? Illusion and Italy don't provide CC, making ganks more difficult. This is one reason why I would assume Lucian not being seen that often. Then TF and Syndra, 57.1 and 55.6. Completely decent, completely good win rates, right? Everything over 50 is really good. If you look at solo queue, the really broken champions have win rates of like 55, 56%, and even champions with 54% win rate are really good. So yeah, moving into the AD carry position, the most played champion is in fact Senna, followed by Ezreal, Jhin, Ashe, and Twitch. Interesting to see no Caitlyn here, with her being so prioritized at the end of most seasons. Yeah, Senna and Ezreal, more scaling, And then team fighting differently, right? Ezreal more backline focused, Senna more supportive. Um, Interesting thing is the win rates then. Highest win rates are Jin Misfortune with 66.7%. Jin with a decent number of games played, right? 12 games is quite good. And then having such a high win rate, yeah, shows that he's a really strong champion at the moment. It's probably because of the utility he also brings into the games. Misfortune, a bit different story, better laning, and then more upfront, easier team fight, right? Just press R, you don't have to hit skill shots like Jin, and you can still be effective. Then Ezreal, interestingly, Twitch, Ziggs, and Caitlyn are all on 50%. Some really interesting picks, right? Twitch, an expected pick to come up after the scrim leaks. Ziggs and Caitlyn, both anticipated picks, with Ziggs being the most classical AP bot laner like ever. And he also showed high effectiveness, even though he wasn't winning all that much, right? Similar story for Caitlyn. She should have like way higher play rate and win rate, but that just wasn't the case. Really strange, actually. But what is really strange are the next two statistics. So Senna, the most played champion, right? 15 games, 46.7. So this is quite a bit under 50%, indicating the champion wasn't doing all that hot, which is a bit understandable, right? She has like her scaling and goes for tier and has no mobility. So yeah, champion is really vulnerable and not effective in the core states of today's meta. Still, for her to have such a low win rate and still then be picked and picked and picked again, a bit strange. Similar story for Ashe, 10 games, right? But 20% win rate. She won 2 games. What is this? Like, Ashe is such a strong champion. Many were even arguing that Ashe is maybe stronger than Caitlyn, which I partially agree on. She provides so much for your team. It's rather shocking to see only 20% here. Maybe the players weren't prioritizing her, right? The winning players, like a tactical or a D or unified. But still, this is really strange to see such a strong champion in general with 20% win rate and then still such a high pick ratio. Yeah, we have to keep an eye on that. I don't think this will repeat in the main stage. Moving into the support position, we have most played Leona, followed by Rakan, then some duos Alistar Nautilus, and then with a bit of a gap, Bot, Braum, and Set. So, as we expected, engage supports are what is good at. Only interesting thing is the Bard actually. Bard a high prioritized pick in the summer in leagues like the LPL or LCK. Not that much in other regions, but yeah. Additionally, to see Leona that far and Rakan, um, especially Rakan with no Saya at the moment, shows how potent these engaged champions is and how much they are valued. Right, some reliable engage in your team is always something teams want. Yes, and this shows also in the win rates. Right, Alistar played 11 times with an 81.8 win rate. This is completely insane. On 11 games, he was winning roughly 82%. Yeah, we have to keep this pick in mind. We were sleeping on it quite a bit in the preparation for playing. But yeah, the teams seemingly have played it in scrims and are now highly proficient on it. Rakan, 61.5%, still very great. Remember, everything above 50% is really good. So this is quite understandably a contested pick. Leona with just 50%, yeah, if you're played that much, probably some losing teams pick you up. And Leona's engage is quite linear and can be punished more easily. But yeah, 50%, it's okay. It's not good by any means. but it's not bad, right? What's bad is like a 40% win rate or a 36.4% win rate. I'm not that much of a fan of Nautilus, so I'm glad that he's actually not winning all that much. Like he's way too linear, and he is not that tanky as he should be in the later stages of the game. On the other hand, Bart and Braum. So Bart, yes, I'm not too sure on the exact numbers, but he was quite often played by Redbird of INTZ. INTZ wasn't doing all that much winning, so understandably his win rate is not that high. Um, for Braum, I think it's a similar story. Um, the high tier teams just didn't pick him, right? They elected for more engage. When Leona and Rakan went on the table, they were like then adapting to the Alistair pick. And yeah, Braum is just not what is that great at the moment. He's way defensive while we want engage, and his peel is not strong enough to hold back the engage and enemy champions piling onto his team. So then let's talk about some overall statistics. Highest win rates for champions, Kassadin, followed by Oriana and Ornn, then Kindred, Alistair, and Graves. So we can see some prioritization in the positions. Oriana, really strong mid laner. Ornn, really great top laner. Alistair, best support, it seems. And Kindred and Graves are really great junglers, which is surprising, right? They're AD farming junglers and not of the AP kind. Nidalee, Eve, Karthus, and what am I missing? Lilia were doing quite okayish, but not that great. Um, and I imagine like we didn't we see a Karthus game? I think we saw one Karthus game only, and just I think 3 Evelyn games or so. So yeah, we have to keep watch out on these other AP champions. Um, But right, these champions are not that great in the early game, like unlike Nidalee, right, and even Lilia to a certain extent. So it's a bit understandable that they are not prioritized that much. While the Kindred and Graves also want to farm, they have also some early prowess in the 2v2s and are even able to gank to a certain extent. So the jungler is not sacrificing all this early game for a really strong farm jungler. Looking at the overall presence in the pick ban. This is a percentage, right, and how many of the drafts or pick ban phases you appeared. So it combines picked and banned, and then puts that into perspective with the total games. So first we have Nidalee with 89.5%. Following this is Oriana, Ornn, and Lilia. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? But it explains to a certain extent why a champion like Nidalee and Lilia are not first most played in their positions, right? Because they're probably banned. We're going over that in a bit. Following that, Graves, Renekton, Sett, Leona, Camille, and Lucian. So these champions are highly valued by the teams. They were picked quite often. A champion like Sett in multiple positions. So yeah, these champions highly valued by teams, prioritizing them in the pick or ban phase. Going over the ban phase now with the most banned champions. So these are champions the teams consider really, really strong and they don't want the enemy to have. So champions like Nidalee, who is in first place with 23 games banned. Yeah, it's a bit understandable that she's not most played jungler then, if she's not available most of the time. 23 games banned out of 38, if I remember correctly. This is quite a bit. And also, yeah, we saw it in the presence. She's really contested and often banned. Following that, Oriana and Ornn. Luckily, these champions are highly banned. If we remember their win rates, 90.9%. It's completely insane. Oriana and On are also like in the top percentage of picked champions in their positions. High ban ratio, high win ratio. These champions fulfill all the criteria for power picks. Have to keep an eye open for them. Following that, very interestingly, we see now finally the Lucian. 18 games banned out of 38. It's quite a bit. Then he was played 5 times, so 23 times out of 38 is his presence. 60.5%, right? So yeah, this champion is not that much under the radar as expected or as deduced from his pick rate alone. It underlines just how much this champion excels. Also, we have to remember he's very difficult and he doesn't offer CC for farming junglers as well. So even all of these negative attitudes, he's still very strong and contested. Following that, Lilia, Renekton, Shen. Shen being a power pick for like players like Armut or Impact, so receiving also a few target bans, but overall able to neutralize many top lane matchups and then play around his teammates with his 2 TPs, protecting the valuable carries in jungle or AD carry position. Really strong. Renekton, I'm not going to say anything here, but Lilia also expected the second best farming jungler in the AP category, right? I value Nidalee more, just like the pro players, for her early game prowess and dueling potential. Then we have some Graves, Bard, and Set. Graves, most played jungler, and then also in the top 10 most banned champions. Yeah, high priority on the pick. We saw it in his 76.3% presence. Bard and Set also set a high pick champion, but not that much. But it seems people are valuing him quite a bit to be banned 12 times. So this rounds up the recap focusing on the champions. As I mentioned before, we see some really strong champions coming in, most of which were expected, but champions like the Oriana, Graves, Kindred, and Alistar weren't that much on the radar of most of us if we were looking at the solo queue rankings. But overall, many anticipated champions. We're looking for Akali, Lucian, and Caitlyn to be picked more heavily. Similar story for Evelynn and Karthus. But yeah, this is it for the video. Hope you all have a great day. Maybe check out the player recap. We go over some interesting statistics there. And then, yeah, tomorrow will be the start of Worlds. Don't miss it. We're going to recap the games as always. So yeah, stay safe till then and see you around.